So, Jeff, tell us a little bit about father hunger, because you alluded to that.
Yeah, father hunger is one of those phenomena where children do miss their dads. I sat down with a young lady some years ago. Her name is Robin Wright King, and she wrote a book called Papa Was a Rolling Stone, A Daughter's Journey to Forgiveness. And what she talks about in the book is how she grew up, wishing that she had her dad in her life. She had this idea that she was like a little Shirley Temple, and that, where dad was always around, even when mom wasn't around. And she grew up and wanted to be daddy's little girl. And because she didn't have that, she had problems in her own relationships with men, trying to, reconcile, differences of opinion and all those other things. And she said it was not until she forgave her dad that she was able to move on with her life, but that's her story. But there are many other stories of both men and women who have father absence. Some of the therapeutic approaches is that if you had to say something to your dad that you never had the opportunity to do, from a therapy standpoint, write it down. And from men, I've read letters like, "Dad, where were you? I waited for you. I wanted you to come to my school. I wanted to learn how to play baseball from you." And I think that a lot of fathers really don't understand the significance. I talked a little bit about earlier the influence of dads. That's the influence of dad. But this father hunger piece is a very significant one. And I think that not addressing that from a traumatic standpoint has also led to some of the things that may have led to incarceration. Because these are unresolved issues, because, it's like a person telling that you're great, who's not your dad, and then your dad never told you that because you never met him. And so that's something that's is extremely important.
And another point, if you could elaborate on, because you talked about this a little bit, and that's how to listen to dads, because many times we go in and want to tell dad this, tell him that, but you alluded about this listening. How do we listen to dads?
Well, the thing is that a lot of the problems of the dads, they know firsthand. And a lot of times we approach our work in a very prescriptive manner, as opposed to posturing ourselves to listen. That was one of the wonderful things about Charles Ballard and this whole idea of neuro-listening programming, because basically as a trained social worker, he was able to put himself in a situation where he listened first. He wanted to see where they were. He wanted to see what their needs were. He wanted to see where their heart was, as a way of gauging the best way to approach it, as opposed to coming up with a set of staid practices that may or may not work with the dad. So, and I tell practitioners all the time, particularly those who are having retention problems with dads, I say, have you ever asked the dads, why they're not coming? Because once you find out why they're not coming, then you can come up with some remedies to make sure that they do come. And some of it has to do with the fact that if they've been recently, they're a returning citizen, they may have a financial commitment they have to make, a retribution, a commitment to make. They may be under pressure from child support, because, it's interesting, the child support policy says that when you owe child support and you go to, and you're incarcerated, they call it voluntary unemployment. And that's what allows that order to keep going up and building up. So you got a 21, 22-year-old guy who comes out, he owes $30,000, $40,000 in back child support. Unless that guy gets a good job, he's probably going to end back up in jail pretty soon, just trying to hustle, trying to make things meet. And so these are important things.
So, and I know with Charles Ballard's work, he just didn't stay in Cleveland. He spent time here in Washington, D.C. with the Men's Health Network and Jimmy Boyd.
Yeah, that's right.
So let's talk about the importance of really making that connection to the policy work, especially organizations like Men's Health Network.
The thing about it, the thing that the Men's Health Network has always represented, along with Charles Ballard, these are the folks who stay on the Hill. You know what I mean? They learn their congressional representatives, they get in front of them, and they just badger them to just pay attention to their issues. And Charles was one of the best at that. So much so that when we had in 1998, when we had the first congressional hearings on fatherhood, Charles was a part of that initial congressional group. The reason why I know, because I was there. And it was because Charles had positioned himself, with folks like Clay Shaw and others, who was head of the Ways and Means Committee at the time, to address the issue. And Charles was able to bring in folks from his program to guys he was serving to share their stories. And so, and that the reason why that's so important because that influences policy, and that laid the foundation. What we did in 1998 in those hearings laid the foundation for the passage of the Deficit Reduction Act bill, which promoted responsible fatherhood and healthy marriage in 2005. And so we got to know who our congressional representatives are. I know that a lot of nonprofits and others are challenged by not being lobbyists, but you can do something. Right. All right, take it to the max, whatever that is, to let folks know who you are and what policy adjustments that need to be made. For example, a big policy consideration that I'm emphasizing now is not cutting the resources, but making sure that the fatherhood dollar can also work with the mothers in a similar fashion. All right, so that's very important. And I think the other thing, I think that programs that work on parenting education, once these parents complete their program, they should begin given a similar weight as far as an outcome is concerned as child support. Because again, once a person understands what it is to be a parent, all the other stuff comes. And that's what Charles used to emphasize too, because I remember this one group was trying to get Charles to really make child support more prominent in his work. And Charles said no. He said no. He said, you give me the resources and let me work with him, and when I get done, he's going to pay his child support. And folks couldn't see it then, but it's clear to me as day now.
That's right. And he kept his focus. He wasn't like Dunkin' Donuts trying to make
ruthless
burgers and everything. He stuck to the coffee kind of thing.
Charles was, let me tell you, Charles was so committed to the work, as I said earlier, that if you weren't as passionate, as committed as he was, he'd make you very uncomfortable.
Well, thanks again on behalf of the association and the Men's Health Network.
Thank you. Appreciate it.